There is a strange conversation happening around AI governance. Everybody seems to agree that governance matters, and nobody seems to agree where it actually happens. And I think that is the problem. I don't think AI governance is failing per se. I think we are looking for it in the wrong place. That thought has been rattling around in my head recently because if you listen to the conversation, most of it happens around frameworks and principles and committees and responsible AI statements. And those things matter. I don't want to dismiss them, but I keep asking myself a simple question. Where are the real decisions actually being made? Not the aspirations, not the PowerPoint slides, not the policy documents, the actual decisions. And once you start looking at actual deployment, once you start looking at how organizations are buying AI, using AI, sharing data with AI systems, integrating them into workflows, something becomes obvious. The decisions are happening in contracts. And honestly, once you see that, it is very hard to really unsee it because contracts aren't simply documenting AI relationships. They are structuring them. Who can use the data? Can they train on it? Who owns the outputs? What happens if something goes wrong? Can you audit the system? What evidence does the vendor need to provide? Can you terminate access? Those aren't legal details. Those are actually governance decisions. And I think that is where a lot of people are missing what's happening. For years, governance lived comfortably in our policies. And yes, that worked because AI was mostly experimental. The systems were smaller, the stakes were lower, and honestly, nobody really knew what they were doing. A lot of principles, a lot of aspirations, and a lot of trust us. But AI isn't experimental anymore. It is becoming infrastructure, and infrastructure requires controls. One of the lines I've been using lately is this. Policies describe what should happen. Contracts actually define what actually happens. And I think that is one of the biggest shifts we are seeing today. What is interesting is that contracts themselves are changing. Early AI clauses were vague. Everything was bundled together. Training rights, user rights, output rights, fine-tuning, model improvement, one giant permission, almost intentionally fuzzy. And now I keep seeing something different. Those things are separating because they're actually not the same things. Using my data to provide service isn't the same as using it to train a model. And that is not the same thing as using it to improve a model that gets deployed to everyone else. Those actually distinctions, they actually matter. Not because they define risk, because they define value. They define leverage. And honestly, if a vendor can't explain those distinctions clearly, that is probably a signal. Because sometimes vagueness isn't sophistication. Sometimes vagueness is just pure confusion. And another thing that I've been noticing runs completely against conventional wisdom. People assume that more detailed contracts slow deals down. And I actually think the opposite is increasingly true. Clear governance speeds deals up because ambiguity creates friction. Ambiguity creates interpretation. Interpretation creates risk. Risk creates escalations, and escalations create delay. Clear permissions, clear control, clear responsibility, those things help deals move. They just do. One of the things that strikes me is that contracts are starting to function almost like signaling systems. They're telling you something about the company behind them long before anything goes wrong. Do they think carefully about accountability? Do they define responsibilities? Do they separate permissions? Do they provide ways to verify behavior? Because I think we're moving away from trust based on promises and toward trust based on verifiable controls. For a long time, contracts relied on representations. We promise this, we intend that, we will do this. But AI doesn't sit still. AI changes, which means static language becomes less useful. And what I keep seeing instead is movement toward things like logs, audits, evidence, trigger-based rights, transparency obligations, verification mechanisms, not just trust us, here's how you verify it. And honestly, I think that's a much healthier system. I think it is better, and I think it is more mature. And what's fascinating is that these contract structures don't stop at contracts. They influence insurance, underwriting, procurement. They influence trust. They influence how organizations make decisions under uncertainty. That is why I don't think AI governance is missing. I don't think it's actually failing. I think it already moved. And we're starting at policy documents, wondering why they don't seem to be powerful enough. And maybe they're not supposed to be. Maybe contracts have quietly become the operational layer of AI governance. And maybe, just maybe, that is where the real work has always been. I'll be curious what you're seeing when you look at AI inside your organization. Where are the real decisions actually being made? Are they happening inside policies? Or are they already happening somewhere else? Contracts, perhaps?